Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Well, former President Donald Trump has left the White House and all his presidential duties are in the hands of the new administration led by President Joe Biden. But the Donald's term in office will never be forgotten by many. And so we ask, what is his legacy? And what will the world and America be like post Trump? To answer these and other related questions, we have online Ms. Carol Narcisse, civil society advocate, and Reverend Dr. Garnet Roper, social and political commentator. Good morning to you both.
And good morning to you and to your listeners.
Great having you with us again on the Morning Watch. Well, before we talk about the future, let's have a look at the past and also the present. And so I'm going to ask you both, what are your reflections in regards to the 4-year presidency of Donald Trump? Positives, negatives, lessons to be learned. Begin with you, Ms. Narcisse.
Well, thank you for the opportunity for this discussion. You know, I don't think that anyone let me speak for myself. As a member of the human society, right, the global community, it was very, very, very concerning to me to observe someone who demonstrated from the time of his announcement of his candidacy all the way through to his success in the elections, who demonstrated clearly the measure of his character, and that measure was one of someone who had racist ideas and was willing to act upon them. B, someone who was completely disregarding and disrespectful of women and was willing to manifest and articulate that disrespect in graphic terms. C, someone who was motivated to advance his own personal and family wealth and well-being at the expense of the state and of the people of his country, and who demonstrated that time and time. In other words, we had enough information with which to understand that Donald J. Trump represented a clear and present threat, not just to his country, but to the wider world.
Wow. Dr. Roper, your take?
But it isn't often that I have heard, I haven't heard Carol Narcisse for a long time, but it isn't often that I have heard her throughout a long career that I would just simply say ditto, Well said, Carol. How I would like to frame it is to put it this way, that what the last 4 years have done for me is to explain or to provide me lenses to see how some of the most dastardly historical atrocities were or have been committed with the support of a broad mass of people. For example, I had never understood how Germany or the world could have created a Hitler and facilitated a Hitler, until he became such a demon on the world stage. But what the last 4 years have done, and especially this last, shall we say, 4 months between September and now, is to manifest to me what the Bible means by principalities and powers. That how this system collude to ensure systemic racism, misogyny, and to keep world trade as unfair trade. But now I understand it. Now I understand the relationship between wealth and power. Now I understand the blindness of even religious prognosticators and pontificators and preachers.
You said blindness, Dr. Roper? Why?
Yes, there's an ideological blindness to them. Even this morning, somebody sent me some explanation from a QAnon contributor explaining why biblical prophecy may have been wrong about Trump, and the man in the end did not think it was wrong. In other words, he still believes that somehow Trump will emerge the victor.
Oh, okay.
And so that is what has been made clear. You know, this has been both COVID and the Trump presidency in its demise have provided litmus paper to see how the contours of history and power behave themselves.
Miss Narcisse, to sort of piggyback on what Dr. Roper said in the end there, last part, whether we like it or not, the final count reveals that Trump received, I think, over 74 million votes in the election, more than any other Republican candidate, more than the very popular Barack Obama. Apart from blindness, how does one account for that, Ms. Narcisse?
Well, both candidates exceeded the record for vote counts.
Yes. Biden got over 81 million, yes.
Right. So I think we need to understand that phenomenon partly as an expression of one of the COVID effects, which is that more people opted to vote by mail-in, etc. States made various kinds of provisions to except where they were trying to block Black people from voting, made various provisions for easier access to the vote, etc. So some of that might explain the higher participation in the election. The other aspect with respect to Trump, I think, and just taking Reverend Roper's line of thinking, is one of the things that it demonstrates, the level of support. One of the things I think it demonstrates is also the danger of dispossession or a sense of dispossession. What that can cause people to support. In other words, the more people who feel or actually are dispossessed in a society is the more possibilities for those persons to support anyone who promises their deliverance, even if it's an empty promise.
I'm sorry, Ms. Narcisse, we're going to take a break and be right back.
You're listening to Love 101, the family station. It's 7:15.
What if your device was a gateway to listen to so much music that dancing becomes your new workout? To stream so much live sports that your adrenaline will rush? To watch so many movies that you'll talk in famous dialogues? To video chat with your BFFs? Bip, D-Music, Sportsmax, Play Go, Loop, Go Loud, and Billow. All the digital experiences plus extra data to enjoy the things you love. Introducing the new Digicel Prime Bundles. Get 24 gigabytes with a 3-day bundle. So much data, so much fun. Buy in the My Digicel app today.
Shake and go with true shake. Shake and go. Grab a true shake and go. When me have to put in the work, but I'm moving slow. Grab a true shake and go. School time and not joke time. Office study hard, break full time. Grab a true shake and go. When we up in the gym, we have to stay healthy and fit. Grab a true shake and go. Shake and go with True Shake. Packed with 9 grams of protein, 24 key vitamins and minerals to keep you going. Grab a true shake and go.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. We are discussing in this the first watch, the world, America, and the post-Trump era, reflections and expectations with Miss Carol Narcisse and Reverend Dr. Garnet Roper. Ms. Narcisse, you were making the point about dispossession. Let me say more on that in regards to the candidate count, the millions of persons who voted for Trump.
Well, if you look through the history of the world and the popular support for dictators past and present, part of that support involves people's sense of this person is going to right the wrongs that I face, right? The exclusion that I face, the dispossessions that I face. Support in for people to be radicalized in the wrong direction, in pursuit of their personal betterment, their group betterment, right? However misguided their thinking might be, it is that they are on the periphery, on the are for the betterment of not just themselves, but for the collective. In other words, you can take that group can go in different directions. And so it's important to be mindful that we cannot leave whole swathes of our society out and then pretend surprise and shock when they are pulled in a direction that is inimical to the general good. I also want to say that racism is deep and systemic in the American body politic. It is a pathology, and that pathology, as we are seeing, is willing to express itself in ways that have no qualms about harming anyone who is seen as the other. I want to also say that ideological, I don't believe that the support that Trump will have gotten from sections of the church, etc., is based on ideological blindness. I believe it is profoundly ideological, willfully and consciously ideological, and that in the case of some segments of the church, it appears that anyone who comes and says that we are against abortion, against the LGBT community, against whatever else is in concert with that element of the church, that element of the church will support them regardless of however abhorrent other aspects of their behavior is. And so I think that there's a reflection that the church community needs to be engaged in. I don't know if it has the courage.
I'm sure Dr. Roper wants to say something on that.
Well, I want to say three things. One of them, begin with your count, right? It's the only time that I can remember that the number of votes that the loser got becomes the kind of lead argument.
Right.
Hillary.
Maybe because of the
yes. No, but I mean, it is. You see, you're running. Barack Obama wasn't running against Donald Trump. Barack Obama got enough votes to win, right, and to win by a substantial margin.
And the thing is,
despite his grievance politics, and his resorting to people's worse nature, their baser instinct with his dog whistle or his bullhorn. He was beaten by 7 million votes, and that's what matters. The other thing to be said is that is only 155 million people who voted of a population of 320 million. So there is a lot more to vote.
Yes,
and then now the third thing is that by ideological blindness, I don't mean that people are not intentionally ideological. What I mean is that because they see the world only through these lenses of their ideology, they are blind to any other material reality, which is what has come. The church is a part of the echo chamber of the Republican Party. Now, there is another section to the church, Stacey Abrams, Raphael Warnock, all of them are part of the Progressive National Baptist, which is a substantial gathering. I preached at their convention a year ago in Atlanta, and I met Raphael Warnock, I met Stacey Abrams, I met Jesse Jackson. I mean, church is a particular thing in America. And there is a white church, which really has more to do with the Republican Party than the gospel of Jesus Christ. And there is a black church, which is very, very democratic and very, very pro-social justice. So I just want to put that on the table. And the problem for the church in America is its wealth and power. Because it has so much money and is so well-connected property and wealth, it refuses to acknowledge the other universe outside of its echo chamber and its bubble.
Yes. Tell us
now. You're not willing to listen.
Tell us now, Dr. Roper, how will the world, America, look post-Trump in this new era that we have?
Well, I mean, Trump was a blip, was an aberration. The day Joe Biden, what Joe Biden proved with no real campaigning, no rallies to mobilize 81 million votes is an indication of the goodwill that is out there to be tapped in. And what I think you will see in the next year, I would think, is how quickly Trump is forgotten as a bad nightmare or as a bad movie. He really did very little that is rooted in historical processes that will have a long-term effect. The man who killed the homeless.
If I can just stop you a little, Dr. Roper. You mentioned Germany, Hitler. Yes. He has not been forgotten.
But Hitler...
Are there not these rulers that throughout time, no matter how long, people still remember them and talk of them?
No. We're not. We're using memory in two different ways, right? When I use a memory of things to celebrate and to build on, not just to bring to mind. But Hitler, on the other hand, presided over the rise of German engineering in a particular way in the 1930s. But also, remember the Weimar Constitution, from which he had his Buchenwald and so on, was where democracy as a kind of idea took its kind of birth spring, So there were some things that were born in the Hitler regime. It is the notion of the superiority of the Aryan race and his extermination of the Jews and the Gypsies. That is the heinousness of his crime. Yeah. But the men who killed the homeless men 2 evenings ago will be forgotten. Not that we will forget that 6 homeless people or 5 were murdered on a night. But what they have done will not leave anything on which to build. If anything, it will call attention to something else we have to do in terms of protecting the vulnerable. Many people remember the time when in Montego Bay the homeless people were shipped to St. Elizabeth, right? But we regard it with horror. It is something to be embarrassed about, and that's how you see it from.
Okay.
Could I say quickly that I think yes, many may Trump as an individual may recede in importance, etc. But there is something that has been let out of the bottle during his term in office that is going to persist for a while yet and be difficult to put back in the bottle. We have our own experience in Jamaica to go by. When our political leaders of the time let out of the bottle a virulent, violent political tribalism, the consequences have been long-lasting. The consequences have morphed into and is part of the contributor to our current state of crime and murder and mayhem. And it is also part of the continuing difficulty of Jamaica to come to consensus about everything, because everything is seen through tribal partisan lens. I believe that in the American context, the increased polarization, political polarization that started before Trump and was exacerbated by Trumpism and Trump, that polarization is going to persist. Perhaps, I was going to say perhaps until the older generation of the House of Representatives and the Senate go, but we are seeing in Hawley and other younger ones that they're even worse, right? So that partisan polarization is likely to persist. The letting loose of an emboldening of the militias and the conspiracy theorists and so on, that is likely to persist as a clear and present threat to the democratic processes and to people's individual lives. It's a mix and an alchemy that is going to be very, very challenging. Even as the Biden presidency is demonstrating that the possibility for redemption and for restoration. But it's not going to be an easy road. And I think, as I said, just as we have experienced, the results are going to be with them for quite a while.
Right. I'm so sorry, both of you. We are totally out of time. We could continue for another half an hour, I believe. But thank you so very much for joining us.
I hope you'll do a discussion about the role of faith groups in what occurred at some point.
We will see. Thank you very much for joining us.
All right.
Listeners, the Morning Watch will return in just a moment.
JN Bank Live Online Banking is your quick and easy banking that's safe and secure. Sign up today. Visit jnbank.com. JN Bank will help you find a way. The time is
7:30, folks, on The Sound of Love.
I know, man. She gets out of bed even when she doesn't feel like it. She works long hours and rarely gets a break. She gives of herself every single day and has a very important job.
Here you go, sweetie. Do you need anything else?
But this woman is not only a nurse, she is also my mom. And Malta helps her care for herself so she can look after everybody else. And me too. Thanks, mommy. Thanks, Malta.
Malta, full of life. Flow Internet plus your Flow postpaid mobile equals super savings. We're talking 50% off your postpaid mobile plan. Just add your postpaid plan to your Flow home internet so your family can share their favorite videos, stay on top of work emails, and stream their new favorite song over and over, whether at home or on the go. Now everyone can stay connected and save 50% off their mobile plan. Get the connectivity to do it all anywhere on Jamaica's largest network, Flow. Visit a store today.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Let's take a look at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. In the Gleaner, Cornwall College, Mount Alvernia, among Western schools reopening this week. Then we see here high-priced COVID tests. Ministry box at Gouges as travelers charged up to $300 US. Wow. And then principal is stating that suicidal kids are falling beneath the radar. In the Observer, Jamaica starts talks with China, Cuba, and India for COVID vaccines. And then businessman threatens to sue police after search of Rocky Point home. And then finally, we are seen as a major headline, prisons step up monitoring after 21 new cases of COVID-19 detected at GP. Oh my. Well, those are some of the major stories in our newspapers. Coming up next, we'll read some of the feedback from our Facebook and WhatsApp question. How have you coped with the ban on styrofoam products and single-use plastics 1 year later? Please leave a comment on our Facebook page, Love 101 FM Jamaica, or WhatsApp 876-997-3125. We'll be right back.
Here is a reminder from Love 101, the family station, as we face the COVID-19 pandemic. Be kind to address stigma during this pandemic. Share the latest facts and avoid exaggerating stories. Show solidarity with affected persons and tell the stories of persons who have experienced the virus. I am Kimberly Levy from Love 101, reminding you to protect yourself while protecting others. Stay safe and keep it locked on Love 101, the family station.
Have some issues and concerns in your community that you wish could be attended to now? Want a platform to voice those concerns? This could be the place for you. Send your 30-second voice notes describing your issue to 876-997-3125. That's 876-997-3125. Be sure to type a voice for hope before sending the voice note. Then listen on Tuesday at 9:45 a.m. for a voice for hope. Share the concerns you have seen. You know that street light that has not been working for a long time, or your community has not had water for 2 weeks now? Yes, here is somewhere you can share it. And maybe, just maybe, we can get some love on your situation. Remember now, send a 30-second voice note describing your issue and type a voice for hope before sending your voice note to 876-997-3125. A voice for hope. It's a problem, and we need a solution now. Love 101 FM, the family station, bringing a voice to your situation.
When the Bible says eye for an eye, is it being literal? How about the verse that says, judge not, that ye be not judged? And then there is, all things work together for good. How do we say that verse go again? Many of us misinterpret and misquote the Bible. Join host Pastor Harris Steve Blair and guest David Pearson as they discuss misinterpreting the Bible inside the Rock. Tuesday, January 26th at 10 a.m. on the family station Love 101. On Christ the Son.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Well, as of January 1, 2020, a ban was placed on the local manufacture, distribution, and use of expanded polystyrene foam products used in the food and beverage industry. It's been a little over a year. Has the initiative worked so far? If so, how? And if not, why not? To discuss these and other related issues, we have so far Mr. Anthony Mackenzie, Director, Environmental Management Division of NEPA, and we are hoping to be joined by someone else soon. And we want to welcome now Mr. Mackenzie to the program. Welcome, Mr. Mackenzie.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Alan.
Yes, good to have you with us this morning.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Of course, we are hoping to be joined by the president of the Small Business Association, and we're having some difficulty making the connection. But when that is through, we'll be able to talk to him. Okay, let's begin with, yes, let me, since we have you hello so far, Mr. Mackenzie, could you remind us of the details and the reasons for the ban on styrofoam products and single-use plastics, which was established, I think, last year, January?
No, actually, we're going into our third year. It was established.
So what happened last year, January?
So the first phase actually started January 1, 2019. It was actually full. And then the second stage on the 1st of January 2020.
All right, so the first stage was what vis-a-vis the second?
The first phase was relating to the plastic bags or the typical standard bags of a certain size, as well as plastic straws back then. And then last year, at the 1st of January, was the polystyrene food packaging, commonly styrofoam called boxes. So that was the second phase, and then we're into the third phase, which seeks to capture the another size bag, plastic bag, thicker version of the standard bag. So not all standard bags were banned in the first phase. The third phase we did it to the bags started on January, and also included a ban on the plastic straws attached to drink pouches and boxes. So we've taken a three-phase approach in the first instance, and you had asked the question, what were the reasons?
Yes.
The bottom line is that the single-use plastic has presented not only as an environmental challenge, but a waste management challenge as well, and bonding to a health-related challenge as well. It's not only an issue relating to Jamaica, but international as well. We're picking up because of the amount of plastics we're using as a society, as a world, more and more in the waste stream and accumulating in the environment, that down the road could have all sorts of other impacts. So there's an international effort to try to minimize our usage of plastic, notwithstanding the fact that plastics have become very convenient. But in the case of Jamaica, we've been seeing where, especially I suppose because we have not gotten to the stage where we properly manage our waste, that it ends up in our gullies, in our rivers, and then onto the coast. And of course, we've seen instances where flooding as a result, blockages, and the impact, of course, on our coastal environment and our wildlife can be understated. So, a number of reasons, and then, of course, the scientists are seeing what we call microplastics, where it breaks down and there's a possibility of it entering some aspects of our food chain. So a number of reasons, really.
Yes, and why styrofoam products? What significance of the styrofoam product?
Well, the styrofoam. Some of the types of plastic. Styrofoam is a plastic. Polystyrene is also a plastic type of plastic. There are some that like polyethylene, polypropylene. Those PET type. Those are potentially recyclable to a large extent. Polystyrene, there's not really that possibility. So once it's used, it has no other, to a large extent, other purpose.
Okay.
So it's just discarded.
Okay.
And then there have been some reports, some studies that show that there might have some also health implications depending on who it's used.
Right.
So,
right.
But I think largely from our point of view, it was the fact that there's no other use. It's massive when it's used, and it's not can be repurposed to a large extent.
Okay.
So we wanted to target that as well.
Okay, I understand that we have online as well Mr. Lecky. Are you there, Mr. Lecky?
Pleasant morning. Thank you. Yes, I'm here.
Yes, good to have you, President of the Small Business Association of Jamaica. Mr. Lecky, what were the initial responses to the ban from members of your association, and how did that evolve over time?
Well, I must tell you that my membership, when first introduced by the government, there was a bit apprehension on our part. But since then, we understood because there was a communication between the government and ourselves.
What was the apprehension about? Right. Why was that so?
Because everything boils down to cost. That was the real issue. And there was this gap of communicating of what the reason for this ban and who the ban is going to affect. And we saw the problems coming forward. So with the communication by the government now, we understood where they are going. Environmental is the paramount reason, and we understood that. And we're talking about the restaurants and the food shops and so on.
Right.
So it's really the lunch boxes is really the biggest impact. And since then, we're not fully comfortable with what's happening based on cost, and that is where the problem is. But we embrace what the government is doing. But the alternative to the styrofoam is the problem. The alternative, it's most of them, is not durable, meaning that it almost falls apart and it gets soggy when food, especially warm food, is being placed in these countries.
Tell you what, Mr. Lecky, could you just hold that thought, please? We're going to take a break and be right back.
You're listening to Love 101. The family station is now 7:45.
Shake and go with two shake. Shake and go. Grab a two shake and go. When me have to put in the work, but I'm moving slow. Grab a two shake and go. School time and on joke time. Office study hard, break full time. Grab a two shake and go. When we up in the gym, we have to stay healthy and fit. Grab a two shake and go. Shake and go with True Shake. Packed with 9 grams of protein, 24 key vitamins and minerals to keep you going. Grab a True Shake and go.
Bashco time. All the things that you need for your home. The price is so low, you would never need a loan at Bashco. Spend it at Bashco. Appliances, house with furniture and rugs, gifts and linens and glass and mugs at Bashco. At Bashco. Whether the north or south, in the east and the west, Bashco, them all over, they must be the best at Bashco. At Bashco. At Bashco. At Bashco. 30 years of giving you more.
For 22 years, we were together for a common cause. We wake up early, we train, We push until we've made it to the end. Soon, we'll be together again. But for now, while we have to be apart, let's run, wheel, and walk for the pediatric wards of the Anata Bay and Port Antonio hospitals, and to help our nation's children get back on track with their education. Sigma Virtual Run 2021. Together or apart, February 12 to 21. Let's run for a cause. Sponsored by Reggae Marathon, Catherine Speaks, Starlight Production, Just Great, John Connor Production, Whistling Frog, Signex, Visual 5, Phase 3 Productions, Jamaica Observer, Lithographic Printers, JY Dyson Events, and Game.
8:15 on the 8:15.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. We are discussing the ban on styrofoam products and single-use plastics. We are reflecting on the whole matter. And we have online Mr. Anthony Mackenzie, Director, Environmental Management Division of NEPA, and Mr. Michael Leckie, President of the Small Business Association of Jamaica. Mr. Leckie, you were making some points before we went to break.
Yes, to continue what you're saying, it's really the durability of the products that are out there.
Are you talking especially about the food, the food and
the warm food that is in place in these lunch boxes?
Yeah.
What you're having is it gets soggy, it gets soft, and almost falling apart.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's if you want to travel long places with the same food, will cause a problem. But I've been getting some other feedback that there are other products out there which are more sturdy. Mm-hmm. But the other problem with that now, we're looking at cost.
Yeah.
And when small business operators, we always look at our margin.
Yes.
And for instance, the styrofoam product, our case, let me give you a case in point. Our case will cost about $600.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're looking at is doubling the cost of these lunch boxes. So it has a direct impact on our bottom line. And that is where we're having the problem with the introduction of these new alternative packaging lunch boxes.
Wow. All right. Unless Mr. Mackenzie wants to comment on what you just said, I want to ask you, Mr. Mackenzie, what would you say has been the compliance rate so far, and what are the stipulated penalties for breaches?
Right. So, we've seen almost 100% compliance relating to the
almost 100%
polystyrene. Well, in terms of the lunch boxes, the polystyrene or styrofoam lunch boxes, we're not seeing that again in the trade substantially. I don't know that we're seeing that. So we've had significant compliance where that is concerned. So as I say, that was imposed the 1st of January last year, and we can perhaps give some success to that. I think Mr. Leckie has made a point about the alternatives. Yes, I could say that the government is aware of some approaches that need to be taken with respect to that, and work is progressive nicely in that regard. So we should come back to have some further discussion on the question of alternatives. Because ideally what we want are products that are degradable, compostable, or biodegradable. And indeed we're seeing some that they degrade perhaps too quickly, if that's if you want to use that term. But we are taking steps. There's working with the Bureau of Standards and so on to seek to make those corrections as we go on. Yeah.
Mr. Mackenzie, what about the plastic bags? Because I'm seeing what they call scandal bags. I'm seeing them coming. They're back. They're back.
Right. Okay. So
I went to buy some stuff a couple of days ago, and that was what the person handed me.
Right. So we have had, again, significant success with the plastic bag, but we still are seeing the size that banned still in the trade. Remember, not all plastic bags are banned, right? The ban originally was for the 1.5 mils in thickness and less than 24 by 24, and that was extended in January of this year to be 2.5 mils and 24 by 24.
Those are the ones that are
above. So plastic bags above that size can still be available.
No man, I'm talking the one.
The typical standard bag that we know of.
Yes.
Those are banned, and that's what we're seeing.
But
yes,
they are
yes, yes, we can say that. Yes, we are aware that we're still seeing it in some aspects of the trade. We have taken action, enforcement action. We have people and companies in court as we speak, and we've been moving to take further action. As you've asked, the penalty can be up to 2 years in prison based on the decision of the judge in the parish court.
Wow.
If you see it in the commercial trade, or if you're importing, you can be fined up to $2 million and 2 years in prison. So that's it. We have companies and persons in the courts now, and we're proceeding with further enforcement action once we see and we can find the source of the evidence of this coming in the trade. If persons are seeing it, wherever, please report it to the National Environment and Planning or the National Compliance Authority.
Okay, Mr. Lecky?
Yes.
Mr. Lecky?
Yes,
those scandal bags that we are seeing resurfacing.
Yes.
What's your take on that?
The thing about it, why you probably hear me kind of hesitate a bit, is that there is a need for a longer stretch for compliance, meaning that there needs more time.
Oh dear. You still say that, Mr. Lecky? We still need more time after a year?
Yeah, man, after a year, man. Because what happened now? You need, and what the country needs is better communication and better education on what is going on. And that is the key. You see, the buying is the key. And when you have a buying, you have a total cooperation from everyone. And the buying, what I'm speaking about, is really, listen, it's about the environment, and it's not about just taking away something out of the norm. We have grown up to have a bag around. And when somebody, you throw something at them and say, okay, use this bag as against this bag. You will need to know, weigh both of them and say, listen, the alternative is this because this is what is happening. So you will not get a pushback. That's all I'm saying. But from a point of view of our association and small businesses, we are getting the communication better now from government via NEPA, which is good, and it's coming now at the tail end. This is what I'm saying. But we are still comfortable that the band is good, and we agree with the band, and we are actually have to use. Let me tell you something. We also have to use now the transparent plastic.
Right.
That's what we're using now for the food items, and that is now a see-through one. People don't like it, but it's a buying that you need. That's all I'm saying. It's a
real scandal back now.
Yes, but it does the same. It does the same problem. Yeah, it's biodegradable, eh?
Right. Mr. Mackenzie, COVID-19 came and is still with us. How has it helped or hindered the effectiveness of the ban?
Well, I am not sure that it has hindered in any way. I think we have still managed to proceed with our public education campaign, perhaps less intensive as we'd have hoped. I understand and agree with the point by Mr. Licky that we need to be educating and getting buy-in. But also we need to remember that this whole discussion started from 2016. So over that period, we've been having various consultations and engagements and so on. And so I think the feeling is that we've had enough time to allow this thing to at least get a significant amount of buy-in. So having said that, you'd have noticed that towards the end of last year into this year, we've ramped up our advertisements and public education and communication relating to the plastic ban. And we're expecting that we'd see some positive responses from that. So going forward,
Sorry, Mr. Mackenzie, have you not been hearing that people are saying, in light of the COVID realities, it's now we need the plastic bags?
No, I'm not sure. I've been hearing.
Oh, okay,
that.
Okay.
Right. So you remember, that
I've been hearing that.
There are some. Okay, so let me just be clear. If we look back at the order, there are some types of primary packaging bags that are not banned. So I heard you mention the clear bags, the poly bags that are used for wrapping food and for sanitation purposes. Those are not banned, and it was very clear in the order. I can send you a copy that those are not banned because we recognize that there should be the use of those bags to ensure health and safety. Right, so those are specifically not banned and it's specifically outlined in the order.
Yes. All right, we are wrapping up. Any final thoughts, Mr. Lecky?
No, but I would implore NEPA and the government to speak more. Because we don't want to overkill the point about the awareness and the education, but speak more to why we're doing this, and we get a better mind because it's culture, and it's a difficult thing to kick the habit. So the best approach. So let us all have one voice that we are comfortable with it, and we are okay with it, and we know why we are doing it.
Okay. All right. You have to leave it there. We want to thank you both gentlemen for joining us, and have a productive day.
All right. Thank you very much for having me.
Great. Thank you, listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we continue to set the stage for a discussion of topical and the controversial issues. For information on how to get copies of this program, call our production department at 876-968-959627. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Miss Kathy Gale, and our guests. I am Dylan Toussaint, reminding you to be purposeful, faithful, thankful, and watchful as I hand you back to Love in the Morning with Siobhan Blair.
Enjoy reduced sugar, reduced sodium, and gluten-free product options. With Grace, you have better choices for a better life.
The time brought to you by Grace Kennedy is
8 o'clock, folks, on the family station Love